Hello.
Hey, friends and family.
Give them a little 360 view.
Yeah, we're here at Catawba Falls in North Carolina, near Asheville. Really, really beautiful, easy trail on a mildly cool day, I suppose we could say. Not so bad.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite sounds right here. So today we're going to be talking about working through triggering situations in your relationship.
Yeah.
Because this just happened this morning, so we figured we'd share
Yeah.
some personal experience.
Yeah. Figured we'd get into our own humanity a little bit, and and just see how everything we really talk about ties into this kind of stuff. But this is very human too at the same time, which is I think today, I'll exercise and do my best to just let it be human today.
Yeah.
And
I love being human.
I do too.
There's such medicine in being human, and so many lessons in being human.
Yeah, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To experience this human earth plane.
Yeah.
So, where do we begin?
So it all started with, as you might imagine, what Lexi and I do when we're not on camera is we talk about the same shit.
And so we were discussing the ego and spirituality, and we were just getting into a discussion, and I went to express myself from an egoic state. So I was I had been feeling some density in my chest, and just knew that I needed to express something that I wasn't. Sometimes I'm not always tuned into how I'm feeling, but I know I'm feeling something. And I can feel that in density, that stuck energy that's in my chest. So I went to express myself and wasn't really sure what was going to come out, but I knew that I needed to express myself in some way to allow this energy to release itself.
Yeah.
But we were in the middle of a discussion about ego. So he called my ego out in a good, in a good way.
Yeah, I wasn't mean about it, right?
No, I wasn't mean about it. He was just stating oh, you're coming from, your ego is speaking, you're identifying with what you're saying. And I think what I said was, I'm feeling this density in my chest or something. But this is it's vulnerable for me to express myself at all, really. It's something stepping into my voice and my power has been the practice of this year, and communicating in a vulnerable state, so you were well, that's an illusion, not feeling whole. That's what it was.
That was the trigger word.
I was saying something about not feeling whole, and that was the trigger word.
Yeah, illusion.
Yeah. He was well, that's an illusion. And I'm I started to feel the rage in me of him calling my emotions an illusion, which they are. They're not me. I am witnessing them. However, when you're in that vulnerable state, it can be very triggering for someone to call what you're moving through an illusion. And so my ego reacted, and not right away. I sat with it for a moment.
No, I mean you really processed,
And I processed it, and I brought it back up, and I was well, when you said this, and I was trying to communicate in a way how that made me feel, and you communicated again about brought up the ego again. Yeah. And so I was triggered again. I'm oh!
It's another one. It's another layer, yeah.
Another layer.
Yeah.
And so I just was I know I need to remove myself from the situation so I don't react. And I just need some space to be with myself and go for a walk. So I just like put on my shoes, put on a sweatshirt, and I'm like, all right, I'll be back. You know, I need to go for a walk. I need to walk it off.
Very pleasantly, you know, it wasn't like she, just to be clear about the scene, it wasn't like she stormed out or anything like that.
No.
It was very, very gentle. She said, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to go talk to the people at the desk and, you know, I'll be back in a little bit.
Yeah.
It was very, very gentle the whole time, too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
just to be clear, the imagination can be like, oh, David and Lexi getting raised.
Yeah, no, it was a peaceful experience.
Yeah, the whole time it was.
Yeah, it was peaceful. But still, like, when you're in a triggered state, even if you're acting in a gentle, peaceful way, like, what was moving through me was, you know, it was fiery.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, let me walk off the fire. So do you want to speak about your experience, and then we'll tie up how the beautiful ending of it all?
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, like, what was really the greatest, I guess, lesson of it for me was... So again, it started off as this like just very dry conversation about the ego, and then it turned into a conversation about Lexi's ego. And that's when it shifted from, you know, I was in the role of like, you know, talking about, I was like, oh, and just pointing things out and everything like that in discussion.
Right.
And then she, you know, you expressed through, you just verbalized an ego expression, you know, identifying with that part of you.
Right. So I like switched the discussion from, oh, we're having like an educational, spiritual discussion to like, now I'm exposing my feelings.
Yeah.
And
I was just oblivious and didn't and didn't pick up on like, so now it's not like we're having a conversation about some like consciousness stuff. Now it's I'm there with my lover, my partner, and she needs me. And like I just didn't move out of the state of like teaching her something, you know, and she moved out of the position of needing to be taught or wanting to be taught or even talking about this shit anymore. She moved out of a place that's like, hey, I need you to be there for me. And I just didn't pick up on it.
Which isn't anyone's fault, really.
Yeah,
at all.
And again, it was something that, you know, you handled it really well. You just gracefully said, I think I just need some space for a moment, and you went and did what you needed to do.
I probably came back in like 3 minutes, or
yeah, it was fast, and I sat there like, fuck, what and I was that space was really good for me to be like, oh, I kind of see what happened, you know, and it gave me a little bit of time to reflect on what went down, and I came to the realization, you know, during that, again, like 3-minute period, you know, where she went downstairs and came back up, where I was like, okay, I was too masculine about it. Honestly, I wasn't balanced in and when I was speaking to you about what we were talking about, especially when it came up, and I mean, I noticed you were triggered, but I was like, oh, this is like, for me, like the teacher inside got excited because it's a moment to like really have you experience what it's like to have that backlash of the ego in place and work through it.
Right, and I could see that in you. You were like, oh, this is a great opportunity to trigger her more. But teach her. Teach her. Yeah. Just kidding. But it is that. Like,
that's what it is.
In teaching,
though.
It's going to trigger me more.
But that's what it's like.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I had a moment of like backlash too, where I projected onto him because I wanted him to feel what I was feeling. And so before I left the room, he said something like, oh, I'm experiencing stomach pain or something. And I'm like, you're identifying.
Throw it right back at me. You're identifying with your stomach pain.
You're identifying, and he's like, you're trying to prove me wrong or something.
I don't know.
Whatever. But anyway, so once I returned from my little walk, which was really beautiful because that's an opportunity for you to create space. So like separating yourself from the triggering moment. Just even all you need is a moment, really, to center yourself, to breathe, and to let go of the ego in a way.
Yeah.
So separating yourself from the situation, creating some space so that you can come back and respond to the situation.
Yeah.
So
with clarity.
With clarity, yeah, and like with neutrality in a peaceful state.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love this stuff. Can you tell? I'm like, this is like where my medicine is.
Yeah, go for it.
So I return, and we just take a moment to hug and take a moment to just be at peace with each other.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, you ready for a conversation? And we sat down and we breathed for a moment and opened up some sacred space where we could both be open with each other about like what we just experienced and what was triggering for each other. And it was just such a beautiful moment to open up this this peaceful state of communication and allowed our relationship to grow and expand in a new way, and allowed us to individually grow and expand in a new way, and allow us to really hear each other, to really pause and hear each other's needs. And so I communicated what I went through, and you listened and just were there for me. And then once I was done expressing myself, we opened up space for you, and that was so beautiful.
Oh my God.
It was so beautiful.
It was so amazing. Yeah. It was one of the, for me, expressing myself was always challenging also, because again, I explored so many different ways of communicating, and I never really felt like I was able to communicate my end of the story without getting in trouble. Or getting blamed for something or whatever, or the whole situation being put on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And making myself feel bad about what I did and shaming me for it or whatever it was. But it was so beautiful because, and this is where the golden nugget I think of this talk is so you got to share honestly your experience, and I didn't say a word. I just sat there and was just there for you to communicate.
Yes.
Right? And there was no response on my end at all. I didn't try to like tell my part of the story or say, you know what, well, when you did that, and just start the whole thing over again.
Right.
All I did was be quiet and listen.
And that is key right there.
Yeah.
That just to really be able to have this moment of resolution is to take the time for the other person to really listen.
Yeah.
And then after you listen, be like, this is what I heard. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is there anything more? Yeah,
totally. And then also even asking, which was really great too, that you brought this up actually a little while ago, of, when I felt, well, you asked me if I needed to communicate anything. And it's important to like really confirm that the person who's going to be holding space is capable of holding the space at that moment. If there's still a lot of emotion going on, it's hard to do that. It's hard to hold space for somebody else when you have so much that you're going through, So you kind of want to pick the one who's like, I don't want to say stronger, the one who's like less emotion is going on.
Yeah, the one who like wasn't the initial triggered.
Yeah. Is I think better to hold the space to begin with, because then once you expressed yourself and you were heard, you were free.
Right, and now I'm completely in a space where I can hold space.
Right.
but prior to that, I wouldn't have been able to. To really honor that person and what they're going through, and then once they're ready, confirm that.
Yeah, confirm that you're ready to hold space for them.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then I was able to share what I was going through. It took me a while to break out of it too. I had to really work it out. And
I think that's important too,
slow.
Is to like be patient with the other person, because they may be feeling some stuff but may not know exactly what they're moving through yet. So just to sit and take that time to breathe together, and the other person will feel like something's stuck, but give them time to take a second to really feel it out and be ready to open up.
Yeah, and you were so present with me that like, when I was stumbling to express what I was trying to express, you picked up on it. We're like, when I did this, it triggered you, right? And I was like, yes. And then that just opened it up for me. And then from there, I was really able to release. And I cried like a lot, and that was my way in that moment of really, that was so much for me. Not only this particular scenario, but all the other scenarios that I went through where I was not heard, and the space was not held for me in the way that Lexi was able to hold space for me. I cried for all of those moments too. So it was like, it was a pretty good one,
Yeah, to finally be heard.
Oh my God, amazing.
It's such a beautiful, liberating experience. Like, you really feel held, you feel warm in your lover's Yeah.
You feel really loved when you're just listened to and heard. Yeah. So
we just wanted to share this moment.
Just share what we're going through too.
We're human, and this stuff comes, and it's beautiful to be really met in this way. So.
Yeah, and I hope this improves your relationships, even not even just with your partner, but with anybody, your family members and your friends and everything. You can the same process. It doesn't have to be any different. And I was happy to share this too and talk about it and really be vulnerable on our end, so we can express that we're not perfect, but we're trying it and we're working it out, and we're just staying centered in the heart and trying to let our actions and words and thoughts come from that space. And man, let me tell you, just based on this experience, it's working.
It was beautiful.
So beautiful.
I think we came out of the experience stronger.
Definitely.
And this is a way to tie in our last talk of resentment, as if we just pushed it aside and didn't have a conversation about it afterwards, and we're like, oh, whatever, that was silly, haha, and laugh it off. This is where resentments come from, because you're both not honoring yourself and opening up this beautiful communication of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So that just ties into our last talk, which you can go listen to on vulnerability.
Yeah, really good tie in there too. It's I love this that we
and resentment. Sorry, that one too.
That big one. Yeah.
That talk.
But I love that we have a talk and then we get to exercise in our own life and kind of pay our dues and prove it.
Yes.